Hi everybody, Lori here from My Favorite Things. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a fun project to share with you using products from the latest March release, starting with the Essential Alphabet Dynamics. I love a good alpha die set. There's so much you can do with it. This is a great font, a classic, like never go out of style. You can personalize, cards, envelopes, by spelling out the person's name. You can customize a sentiment. I'm going to do something before I cut all these letters apart. While they're all intact, I die cut the whole shebang in a panel of white cardstock. I'm going to use this as a background. So just another way that you can get more mileage out of your alpha die sets. Okay, so what I'm going to do behind all that negative space with the die cut letters to add a little pop of color is strip it up. I'm going to adhere strips of solid color cardstock. So there's lots of different ways you can add color behind your die cuts. You can use pattern paper, you can ink blend, or you can strip it up. And this is what I love to do. So cut a bunch of strips of solid color cardstock in rainbow order. And I just covered that panel behind with some tape runner, and I'm just slapping on strips of solid color cardstock. I cut them all, I didn't even measure, but I'm going to guess about a 1/2 inch wide. I just wanted each strip to be about half the height of each letter. So like for each row of letters would get 2 strips of solid color cardstock. You see that? I'm trying to pack as much color in as I can. And so I had 5 rows of letters. So 10 strips of color, and that allowed for a gorgeous spectrum like so. And I think this really brings the happy. Okay, so once I get those adhered, I flip it over, and I'm going to just trim off that excess with my new mini guillotine paper trimmer. Cuts it like butter. Okay, so we're ready to go. Now you could simply adhere your die cut alpha panel, flat down, but I got to pop it up because dimension is life, and it gives you delicious little shadows. So I used some adhesive foam strips, which makes it quick and easy. And then I did put a few in there, dispersed so you don't get any saggage. Okay, so there's your colorful alpha background. And I'm going to adhere this to a cream card base. There wasn't much room for very much cropping to have a border, but there is a little smidge of cream border. Little dab will do ya. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the sentiment. This is the new Thinking of You Dynamics. So this whole card is just die cutting. I'm going to die cut this Thinking of You into matte gold cardstock, which is very fancy shamancy. But I did notice once I die cut this and I laid it on the background, I felt like it was just getting lost. So I needed like a buffer zone. So I took a circle die of vellum, and that's going to act as a bit of a buffer so that the sentiment can show up a little bit. It's a very fine, delicate Thinking of You sentiment. And to give it a little more heft, I went ahead and die cut 3 more out of white. I'm using spray adhesive to stack up these die cuts to give them dimension, to give them heft. It makes it a little more substantial. And so I stacked up 3 of white, top it off with that gold. When I'm doing very, very intricate die cuts like this, I like to use spray adhesive. But if they're chunky at all, I just use liquid glue. Now to adhere this to the vellum, I did put a little liquid glue. Okay, so you got to try to center it as best as you can. It's not going to fit, but I didn't want it to fit. I kind of wanted it to hang off a little bit here and there. This is a great font. I love the big swoopy Y and the Thinking of You. It's beautiful, and I think that it pairs well with the background with this straight up classic letters, and this one here is very scripty. So a little bit of liquid glue on the back of the F. And now one thing that you can't forget, in the word thinking, there are 2 tittles. So I had to be sure to keep a couple tittles hanging around. Those things have legs, I swear. Every time you got a tittle, it seems like you can never find the tittle. And I needed a couple tittles so I could stack them up. Let's see how many times I could say tittle. Top them off with the gold. Little tittle. Little tittle. That rhymes. Okay, I'm sorry. Using the embellishment wand was such a great little tool. Now, okay, I had to pop this up, okay? So I cut little slivers. You don't need much, but just a few little slivers strategically placed behind the sentiment die cut so it doesn't really show, and then you can pop it up. And I find that when you pop up that vellum, it creates a better buffer zone. And then for embellishment, I added a few of these little raindrops here and there. They look like clear little drops of water. And 3 different sizes. Bada boom, bada bing. This card is finished. What do you think? It's graphic. It's got the rainbow color in the background. It's got the gold thinking of you for the fancy schmancy. And it's all heart. I'm thinking of you today and sending you rainbow hugs. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.